The young lady's betrothed, predetermined by her family, is fated to perish, while one concubine meets her demise. The master wishes to annul the engagement for the young lady, yet she resolutely refuses, declaring, "A daughter of the Pei family shall remain loyal to one. I would rather die than remarry." Throughout the capital, all extol her loyalty and righteousness, and even the crown prince harbors deep affections for her. With the grand wedding imminent, I have been chosen as the bed warmer and sent to the Min Marquette. Before my departure, the young lady secretly slipped me a vial of poison. Her smile seemed laced with venom as she inquired, "He Hua, you know what must be done, do you not?" "One Lotus, tomorrow marks your wedding night as well. It is said that the young masterman has certain proclivities in the bedroom." She covered her mouth with a handkerchief, a faint blush creeping onto her cheeks. "This is a spring elixir. Let him drink it, and you may find some relief." Pei Shu regarded me with a look of deep compassion, her hand hovering in the air, delicately pinching a seemingly inconspicuous small vial between her slender fingers. I recognized the vial. It contained the priceless poison known as Qianji, colorless and tasteless. A single drop could be fatal, and even the coroner would be baffled by the cause of death. "Miss," I stammered, trembling like a frightened kitten, involuntarily retreating. "So, you know what this is?" She seemed taken aback, a flicker of inscrutable light flashing in her eyes, her lips curving into a gentle smile. Pei Shu was known for her grace and kindness, praised by all in the capital. Even in this moment, a smile graced her face. "Lotus, among the maids in the household, you are the most astute. In just a few months, you have risen from a mere kitchen servant to my personal attendant. I trust you. You'll surely assist me. One to you?" She thrust the vial into my hands. "Once this matter is resolved, I will find a way to rescue you, release your contract, and arrange for you to marry a humble scholar as his principal wife." I lowered my gaze. Her words were sweet, yet I held no belief in them. I had uncovered Pei Shu's secret. She would be all too pleased to see me perish. The last time she produced this vial, the pregnant concubine Cui had died under mysterious circumstances. The child in her womb had been 6 months along, and the physician who examined her had proclaimed it a boy. If born, he would be Pei Shu's half-brother, the only male heir in the household. Seeing me biting my lip and shaking my head, Pei Shu's smile grew even more tender. "Since you refuse to comply, I shall simply find another. Miss. It is said in the capital that you are a living bodhisattva. Lotus is grateful for your immense kindness. Should you require anything, I shall not hesitate to brave fire and water for you." I fell to my knees with a thud, repeatedly bowing my head. "Yet you have been chosen as a bed warmer, and now you hesitate at the last moment. There may no longer be a place for you by my side." She grasped my chin and gently lifted my face, clucking her tongue. Such a lovely visage indeed. "No wonder Mama Zhao from the kitchen approached my mother a few days ago, seeking to offer you to her foolish son. Out of pity, I persuaded my mother to select you as my bed warmer, which is why she declined Mama Zhao's request. Now." She released her grip, laughing more heartily. "In a few days, we may very well be calling you Little Mama Zhao." Mama Zhao was the lady of the house's trusted confidant. Having managed the kitchen for many years, her household abundant with wealth. Unfortunately, she only bore a foolish son who, even in his 30s, remained childlike in his innocence. Beyond eating, drinking, and performing bodily functions, he could only gaze greedily at the young and beautiful maidens. When I first entered the kitchen, the kind-hearted Mama Lu had suggested I use ash to cleanse my face. "Lotus, if the foolish son of the Zhao family takes a liking to you, you might as well hang yourself." Heeding her advice, I had avoided Mama Zhao and endeavored to become the personal attendant of the young mistress. The day I entered the young mistress's courtyard, I knelt beneath the moonlight, tears streaming down my face. Lotus thanks the heavens for allowing me to escape the kitchen and avoid falling into the clutches of Mama Zhao and her son. In this life, I seek neither great wealth nor high status. I merely wish to serve the young mistress well and save some silver for myself. When the time is right, I shall use my release from servitude to find a humble scholar's family to become his principal wife. I gazed in shock at Pei Shu, who gently swayed the vial in her hand, smiling at me. The night wind was chilling, and as I knelt on the ground, the cold seeped into my heart. I knelt for what felt like an eternity, long enough to believe that the biting wind had shattered me. Yet my body still needed to endure in this world. Only my heart lay in ruins. Lotus is willing to share the burden with you, Mississippi. I stiffly accepted the vial, and Pei Shu smiled, turning to depart. She was utterly pleased, moving away as swiftly as the wind. I straightened my back, a smile identical to Pei Shu's gracing my lips. Pei Shu, do you know? That night when I entered your courtyard, I intentionally spoke those words upon hearing your footsteps. I revealed a weakness for you to select me as your bed warmer. My performance today has assured your unwavering trust in me. And tomorrow, I shall leap over the high walls of this devouring Pei residence, standing upon your shoulders. 3. The role of a bed warmer is a custom in the capital. Wealthy and powerful families, fearing their sons may have hidden ailments that could bring suffering to their daughters, often send a personal maid to test the marriage before the wedding. This was a coveted position among the maids, as being a bed warmer could lead to a future as a concubine. However, I was different. In the eyes of the Pei family, I was merely going to my doom. The young masterman was handsome and accomplished in both martial and scholarly pursuits. Yet he bore a fate of bringing misfortune to his wives. It was said that just 2 days prior, a concubine from the Min residence had been dragged out from the back door, having met an untimely death. Lotus, be exceedingly cautious. Pei Shu, disregarding the objections of the master and mistress, insisted on accompanying me, bestowing upon me numerous jewels and adornments, transforming me into a dazzling sight. She tugged at the curtain of the palanquin, soaking several handkerchiefs with her tears, unwilling to part. Miss Pei truly has a pure heart. No wonder she is referred to as a living bodhisattva. What good is a living bodhisattva? In a few days, she will marry into the Min family, and then the living bodhisattva shall become a dead one. Pa, you speak nonsense. I must go to the Jade Buddha temple to pray for Miss Pei. Pray for what? The voices of passers-by gradually diminished. Pray that the young master of the Min family is a short-lived wretch. The surrounding crowd gasped in surprise, and after a pause, some even echoed the sentiment. Indeed, I believe the crown prince, with his dragon-like bearing, is a far better match for Miss Pei. The palanquin curtains fell, cutting off the suddenly radiant smile of Pei Shu. So, this is the intent behind it all, I murmured. Yet, her schemes bore no relation to me. After tonight, if all goes well, I shall escape her grasp. I tightened my grip on the vial, silently plotting. Suddenly, the swaying of the palanquin ceased, and I was guided into a room. Miss Lotus, please rest for a moment. Our young master will arrive shortly. I lifted my head and smiled softly. The maid across from me was momentarily entranced by my beauty, staring blankly. It took her a while to regain her senses, her face filled with regret. I understood. A dying beauty often evokes even greater sympathy. I touched my deliberately adorned, sorrowful face, and out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a figure approaching the window, feigning alarm as I lowered my head. I could only hope that the young masterman was a man of compassion. Yet this time, fortune did not seem to favor me. Before I could display the charming demeanor I had practiced for so long, the man before me had already smiled and stripped away my garments, drawing forth a gleaming dagger to press against my neck. Another one, so beautiful it tugs at the heartstrings, I almost hesitate to strike. How about this? I will show mercy and allow you to choose how you wish to meet your demise. I smiled sweetly, pushing aside his dagger and offering him a cup of wine. I am unlike the others. I am both beautiful and clever. Would the young master care to collaborate with me? The wine was exquisite, clear and fragrant. The poison was equally fine, colorless and tasteless. 4. Seeing me stripped bare yet displaying no sign of fear, remaining so composed, Min Zishan's eyes sparkled with intrigue. He sheathed his dagger, smiling at me. You show no surprise at the sight of a dagger. Do you know that the previous women were not killed by me? I smiled lightly, extending the cup of wine towards him. I was certainly aware. I intended to escape the Pei residence by becoming a bed warmer in the Min household, but that did not mean I was willing to be killed. Having made up my mind, I secretly ventured to the potter's field, where I discovered the remains of several concubines. Though their faces were beyond recognition, each bore ghastly scratches upon their bodies, and without exception, a singular, swift stab wound to the chest marked their demise. Thus, I concluded that these concubines had not been killed by the curse, but had met their end at the hands of Min Zishan, since it was not the work of supernatural forces, but rather a human act. My plan could now unfold with greater ease. Min Zishan chuckled. I relish collaborating with intelligent individuals, yet I must ascertain your capabilities first. How about this? He twirled his eyes, seized my wine cup, and pinched my chin to pour it down my throat. Pray tell, how do you intend to preserve your life after consuming the poisonous wine of the Qianji? I was caught off guard, and the entire cup flowed into my mouth, causing a wrenching pain in my abdomen. In the haze, I heard Min Zishan casually command, "Dispose of her in the potter's field." My ears buzzed, and torrents of blood erupted from my mouth. I recalled the visage of Aunt Shui in her dying moments, a reflection of my current state. When I awoke from the boundless darkness, I found myself in the potter's field. The surroundings were eerily silent, with the air thick with the stench of decay. My limbs remained numb. According to the ancient texts my father had collected, it would take another hour before I could move freely. Before being sold to the Pei household, my family's livelihood had been tolerable. My father, a wandering physician of remarkable skill, preferred the simplicity of rural life over mingling with the elite. Thus, he brought me to the countryside, treating the ailments of the impoverished. Regrettably, the healer could not save himself. My father succumbed to a grave illness. With no funds left, I had no choice but to sell myself, using the silver from the Pei household to afford his burial. My father often lamented his inability to provide for me beyond a few tattered books. He had no dowry to bestow upon me. Yet, dear father, today those tattered tomes have preserved my life. The text revealed that there was no antidote for the Qianji poison. However, if the antidote were taken beforehand, the symptoms would remain unchanged, but one could feign death for 2 hours before revival. I gazed at the sparse stars above. Despite being surrounded by countless pale corpses, my heart soared with elation. At last, my arduous scheming had borne fruit, and I had indeed escaped the jaws of death. My heart brimmed with ecstasy as I silently plotted the joyful life that awaited me upon my escape, starting with reclaiming my bond from the Pei household. Just as this thought crossed my mind, I felt a prickling sensation in my limbs, gradually regaining sensation throughout my body. I rose slowly and began to make my way out of the mountain. Suddenly, a crisp applause rang out behind me. Indeed, you have not deceived me. You are a clever one, employing the ruse of feigned death to evade your fate. I turned in astonishment to see Min Zishan, casually draped in a long robe, his chest partially exposed, revealing his alabaster skin. His long hair was disheveled, as though he had just awakened, and this macabre potter's field was merely the courtyard of his abode, where he roamed at will. He regarded my shocked visage as one might a small creature ensnared in a trap. This potter's field is the resting place of the servants of the Min household. After all, you belong to the Pei family. Even if I were to kill you, it would be improper to leave you here. According to custom, you should be properly washed and returned to the Pei household, allowing your young mistress to give you a proper burial. He softly instructed a servant clad in black behind him, "Go, inform the Pei household to collect the body." He then turned back to me, adorned with a disarmingly innocent smile. "Lotus flower, is it? Then I must trouble you to close your eyes and return to the semblance of a corpse, awaiting your young mistress's arrival." His voice slithered like a serpent, hissing in my ear. "What a pity, your mission has failed. I am genuinely curious how your living Avalokiteshvara will treat you, this failure." As his sinister laughter echoed, I resignedly closed my eyes. The Pei household arrived swiftly. Just as Min Zishan carried me into the room, I heard the heart-wrenching cries of Pei Shu. "Lotus flower, lotus flower." Behind her was an elderly physician with white hair and beard, who, upon seeing my corpse, rushed forward to check my pulse. After a moment, his face turned pale with terror as he trembled, reporting to Pei Shu, "Miss Pei, Lotus flower was not killed by the curse, she was poisoned." Pei Shu's expression morphed into one of shock, her tears flowing unchecked. "Dr. Zhang, is what you say true?" The old man, brimming with arrogance, replied, "Naturally. I am the most esteemed physician in the presence of His Highness the Crown Prince. If it were not for His Highness's directive, I would not have come to treat you for your cold." His face reddened. "To treat you is one thing, but I never expected to be summoned to examine a mere maid." If Miss Pei does not trust my medical skills, I shall take my leave. With a bow, he turned to depart. Pei Shu grasped Dr. Zhang's sleeve, her face a picture of sorrow. Dr. Zhang, please wait. I do not distrust your skills. It is just. She turned, pointing an accusing finger at Min Zishan. I never anticipated that the young master of the Min household could be so heartless as to poison my servant. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she lamented. If you did not wish to marry me, you could have simply called off the engagement. Why harm the innocent? Dr. Zhang, upon hearing this, glared at Min Zishan with indignation. You have gone too far, young master. I will certainly report the truth to the crown prince. Min Zishan scoffed. Miss Pei, Dr. Zhang, poisoned? What poison has she been afflicted with? I know nothing of it. Dr. Zhang, fuming, retorted, young master Min, you cannot deny it. She has been poisoned by Qianji. Had it not been for my intervention, no one would have recognized it. Qianji poison? Min Zishan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. I have heard that upon ingestion, one dies within 3 breaths. He seized my wrist, applying pressure to my pulse as I cried out in pain, and with a smile directed at Pei Shu's suddenly pale face, he declared, Miss Pei, you are renowned as the living Avalokiteshvara of the capital. I never imagined your maid possessed such remarkable abilities to survive Qianji poison. He produced a small vial, retrieved from my person, and brought it to his nose for a whiff before leaning close to Pei Shu's ear, whispering seductively, Miss Pei, could you elucidate why your maid carries a vial filled with Qianji poison? And why does the scent on this vial match that of your own? Pei Shu's face flickered between shades of green and white, her delicate hands trembling like leaves in a storm. Min Zishan's gaze flickered momentarily before he resumed his charming demeanor. Fanning himself as he spoke softly, you may either have the Pei family withdraw from the engagement, or Miss Pei may fulfill her promise to wed into my Min household. Choose one. What say you, Miss Pei? Pei Shu's eyes dimmed with despair as she forced a smile. Even if the Pei family is to withdraw, I must first return home to inform my parents. Young masterman, this farce today is all due to this maid's reckless actions. Her crimson nails pressed into the tender flesh of my thigh, grinding mercilessly. I shall take her back to the manor and beat her to death, providing you with an explanation. She gritted her teeth, seemingly wishing to devour me whole. However, Min Zishan raised his hand, gently swatting away her malicious grasp, and sighed softly. Miss Pei, had it not been for this maid's loyalty, I would have been the one to drink the Qianji poison today. I beseech you for a favor. Why not grant her to me as a concubine? It would serve to unite our 2 families in a bond. He gazed at me tenderly, his eyes seemingly brimming with affection. Yet, I trembled in fear. Min Zishan, do you wish to subject me to a fate more brutal than death by beating? Indeed. Upon hearing Min Zishan's words, Pei Shu's gaze towards me grew ever more menacing, yet a disturbing smile crept onto her lips, sending chills down my spine. Young Master Min, please forgive me. It was only before my arrival that I learned from my mother that the lotus flower has already been betrothed to the son of Mama Zhao from our household. Unaware of this matter, I foolishly chose her as a bed warmer. Now that both families have called off the engagement, I shall return her, fulfilling my promise to Zhao. Though she smiled at me, there was a distinct lack of mirth in her eyes, and I could not help but feel my teeth chatter in fear. I grasped the hem of Min Zishan's garments, my eyes pleading. Min Zishan, resting his chin upon the fan's handle, replied with a faint smile, Miss Pei, only a complete return can satisfy Zhao. This lotus flower, having shared a fleeting spring with me, can no longer be considered a member of your Pei household. Pei Shu paused, and after a long moment, managed a smile. The deed of sale for lotus flower resides within my household. She cannot be deemed a member of the Min Marquiate. If the young master truly desires her, why not take her as a favored concubine? I shall gladly present her deed as a gift of congratulations. However, I wonder if the venerable matriarch would approve of such an arrangement? Min Zishan frowned slightly, clicking his tongue, and leaned down to gently pat my pale, cold cheek. Little beauty, your master is truly formidable. I cannot save you now. He pried my fingers from his clothing one by one, and with a melancholic wave of his fan, departed. Pei Shu let out a cold laugh, not sparing me a glance as she commanded, Mama Zhao, do hurry and take your fine daughter-in-law back to the estate. I shall reward you with 50 taels of silver. Today's wedding must be a grand affair, one that our little Mama Zhao will remember for a lifetime.
Thank you, miss.
Mama Zhao grinned wickedly as she approached me. Suddenly, a tall, hideous man sprang forth from behind her, tearing into a half-roasted chicken with bloody teeth. His murky eyes gleamed with a ghostly green light as he caught sight of me, excitedly exclaiming, "Haha, new bride. Mother, this new bride is even whiter than the roast chicken. Do you think she'll be just as tender and delicious?" They, a mother and son, closed in on me like ravenous wolves, and in that moment, I found myself on the brink of despair, teetering on the edge of oblivion.
Stop.
Suddenly, a commanding voice rang out. An opulently adorned elderly woman appeared at the entrance. The Grand Princess. Pei Shu and Dr. Zhang both paled, bowing in unison. Humph. What grandiosity from the Pei household to have a servant dare to make a ruckus in the Min Marquisate. Do you think this old woman is too feeble to protect the Marquisate, or? Her sharp gaze seemed to pierce through Pei Shu's heart. Do you believe, Miss Pei, that you are firmly seated upon the throne of the Crown Princess? Pei Shu's face turned ashen. I would not presume, Grand Princess. It is this servant of mine who has committed a grievous offense against the young master. I shall take her back and ensure she is suitably punished, so that the young master is satisfied. With her silver tongue, she deftly shifted the blame onto me and Min Zishan. The Grand Princess huffed, disregarding her, and stepped aside to reveal a figure with an ethereal presence, holding a feather fan. Upon seeing me, his eyes sparkled with delight. This is the one. Congratulations, Grand Princess. Congratulations. The Grand Princess beamed, her hands clasped together in prayer. Master Guesher, since we have found this auspicious star, my dear Shaner, the young master shall surely be free from misfortune and no longer curse to harm his wife. The Grand Princess will soon have delightful grandchildren. The Grand Princess laughed heartily. Her gaze towards me filled with affection. Lotus flower, is it? Such a good child. Your appearance alone speaks of fortune. Come, someone. She faltered briefly, conversing with the Guesher for a long while before seemingly coming to a resolution. Bring forth garments for Lotus flower to be styled as a concubine. What? Pei Shu's expression turned fierce. Grand Princess, Lotus flower is merely my personal maid. Will she truly become a concubine? The Grand Princess shot her a sidelong glance. What of it? If Miss Pei is so devoted to her station, the world calls you a living guanyin, a deity. Given your mere status as the daughter of a fourth-rank official, isn't such a title rather presumptuous? Pei Shu was rendered speechless. Her face contorted with shame and fury as she hastily bowed to the Grand Princess and fled. Wait, the Grand Princess called after her. Since Lotus flower is now Shaner's concubine, I request that Miss Pei return her deed of sale. Veins bulged at Pei Shu's temples. Her usually composed and dignified face twisted in anguish. She snatched the deed from Mama Zhao's hands and slammed it into my palm. Congratulations, concubine. I held the thin sheet of paper, feeling as though it weighed 1,000 pounds. I had finally crossed over the high walls of the Pei household. Well played, concubine. That night, Min Zishan reclined on a couch, casting a sidelong glance at me. Played? Which instance does the young master refer to? You. Min Zishan's expression shifted, and he strode swiftly to stand before me. Did you intentionally place the silk thread in the fin wine for me to discover? Indeed. Since we are to collaborate, if the young master tests my capabilities, should I not also assess yours? I delicately pinched a pastry from the plate, taking a gentle bite. Oh. Were you satisfied with what you witnessed, concubine? Min Zishan quickly regained his composure, pouring himself a cup of tea. I nodded with a smile, just barely. Then, how did you manage to summon the Guesher? I have heard that he was once a mere wandering Taoist, elevated to his position by chance. How much does the young master know of him? Min Zishan shook his head. The Guesher's identity is shrouded in mystery, even though my mother is the Grand Princess. She knows only that he was encountered during a royal incognito visit. It is said that 6 months ago, he encountered a fortuitous star and now cultivates at an extraordinary pace, possessing knowledge of the past and future. Having predicted several of the Emperor's concerns, he ascended to the position of Guesher. Indeed, the Guesher has encountered a fortuitous star, and just now the Grand Princess mentioned the arrival of an auspicious star at the estate. Young master, do you think these two fortuitous stars could be the same person? Min Zishan stared at me in shock, the fan slipping from his grasp.
Lotus flower, do not jest.
I do not know what means you employed to have the Guesher speak on your behalf today. If you are unwilling to divulge, I shall not press you. But do not attempt to placate me with such supernatural claims. Do not forget, I too am cursed with the fate of bringing misfortune to my wife. He stood tall and hastily departed. At the door, he suddenly halted. Do not think that because you have become the young master's concubine, you can rest easy. After my engagement with Pei Shu has been annulled, she is to marry the crown prince. Even with her status, she may not secure the position of crown princess. Yet, you should understand the weight of the titles. Young Master S. concubine versus Crown Prince S. concubine. He turned to look at me coldly, a smirk tugging at his lips. You say we are in a partnership. Yet from what I see, I have assisted you in escaping the Pei family, while you have caused me to lose a living Guanyin fiancé. Should Pei Shu seek to harm you in the future, what leverage do you possess to compel me to aid you again? I brushed the crumbs of the pastry from my hands and gracefully approached Min Zishan, wrapping my arms around his neck, gazing intently into his dark eyes. Just a crown prince's concubine. What is there to fear? If I can aid you in ascending to the throne, then Pei Shu shall be but mud beneath my feet. Why should I fear her? However, the path ahead will not be simple. Do you wish to attempt it, third prince? Min Zishan's icy facade finally shattered, and he drew a dagger, pressing it against my neck. Who exactly are you? His hand trembled slightly, the sharp blade drawing lines of blood upon my skin. I gently moved the blade aside and poured myself a cup of tea. Since the Guesher can foresee the past and future, how could the star that guides him not be aware as well? Now, do you believe I am worthy of collaborating with you? In Min Zishan's eyes, emotions surged tumultuously, doubt, astonishment, and fear, before ultimately settling into serene composure. He unfurled a handkerchief and pressed it against the wound on my neck, lifting my chin with a faint smile. A deal. My side consort, he murmured. He reclined beside me, languidly suggesting, since the auspicious star can discern the past and future, perhaps you might enlighten me on what my next step should be? I closed my eyes, and a torrent of fragmented memories cascaded through my mind. On the very first night of my servitude in the Pei household, for reasons unbeknownst to me, I was able to witness unfathomable visions. For instance, Pei Shu had used the thread poison to eliminate concubine Cui. Min Zishan had wielded a dagger to slay the spies sent by the palace's ladies who suspected his true identity. To shield his illegitimate child with his beloved, the emperor had entrusted him to the eldest princess for her to raise. And then, a shiver coursed through me. After marrying the crown prince, Pei Shu, in her quest to secure his affection, had thrust me into the crown prince's bed, and in a bid to eliminate competition, she had drowned me while I was with child in the lake. Those images, though mere fragments in my mind, were horrifyingly vivid, as if I had lived through them in a past life. Thus, from the very next day, I resolved to break free from the shackles of fate, determined to live my life in peace, no matter the cost. Tomorrow, outside the palace, you will encounter the crown prince and Pei Shu. They will humiliate you for marrying a woman of lowly status, I warned. Should the side consort then lay low and endure? He queried. No, strike fiercely. Until they are compelled to report to the emperor, came my response. Young master, I hear you had a joyous occasion last night. Marrying a side consort as lovely as a flower, someone remarked. I parted the curtain to gaze outside, where Min Zishan had just dismounted from his carriage, only to be intercepted by the crown prince and Pei Shu. The crown prince, of similar age to Min Zishan, bore deep, dark eyes. Though now they were tinged with fury, the corners slightly reddened. Pei Shu, abandoning her usual dignified demeanor, clung to the crown prince's arm, feigning distress. What is this? Is His Highness here to champion my former fiancé? Min Zishan, fanning himself, raised an eyebrow at Pei Shu. You, the crown prince seethed, his complexion darkening as he swung his fist toward Min Zishan's face. Pei Shu grasped the crown prince's arm, curtsying to Min Zishan with a gentle smile. Young master, you misunderstand. We have come today to sincerely congratulate you. After all, Hua has served me loyally for so many years. Now that she has found a good home, I am genuinely happy for her. Indeed, it is as Miss Pei says. Since you hold such fondness for Hua, When Miss Pei and the Crown Prince wed, I shall bring her to your estate for a celebratory gathering." The Crown Prince scoffed. "What lowly person dares to come to my prince's residence? Young master, do you look down upon me?" Min Zishan's expression shifted to one of solemnity as he placed his fan across his chest and bowed to the Crown Prince. "Your Highness, I advise you to choose your words with care. Such talk of lowly persons should be avoided. I am the Crown Prince. I shall say what I wish. Your side consort hails from the countryside and is indeed a lowly person. Your Highness," Min Zishan warned, gripping the Crown Prince's shoulder, teeth clenched. The Crown Prince sneered. "What? Do you wish to strike me?" Suddenly, he delivered a punch to Min Zishan's face, sending him sprawling to the ground. "Your Highness, I remind you once more to tread carefully in your words and actions." Min Zishan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his tone icy. The Crown Prince, witnessing this, laughed rather than grew angry. "Since the young master chooses to associate with lowly individuals, then in my eyes, he too is of the same ilk. Am I not allowed to strike a lowly person as a Crown Prince?" When the palace attendants summoned the emperor, Min Zishan and the Crown Prince were already locked in a fierce struggle on the ground, their clothes disheveled and faces smeared with blood. "Cease this," the emperor bellowed. "What transpired here?" Pei Shu hastily knelt. "Your Majesty, the Crown Prince kindly came to congratulate the young master on his marriage to a side consort." Yet the young master raised his fists and struck the Crown Prince. She helped the Crown Prince to his feet, deliberately showcasing his bloodied forehead before the emperor. "Speak," the emperor commanded, gesturing to the attendants standing nearby. As Miss Pei stated, it was indeed the young master who first defied the Crown Prince and struck him. The attendants replied, trembling. The emperor cast a discreet, pained glance at Min Zishan, who sat on the ground, gritting his teeth while tending to his wounds. "You are all of the Crown Prince's faction. Your words may be biased. I wish to hear from others." "Your Majesty, I was present at the scene." A middle-aged man, exuding a sage-like demeanor, offered a shallow bow. The emperor's eyes brightened. "The national master is always fair. Please do share." The national master's discerning gaze swept over the faces of those gathered, each harboring their own thoughts. The young master indeed struck first. The emperor's expression soured with disappointment, and he waved his hand. "Bring forth the young master, who has defied authority and acted without decorum. He shall receive 80 strokes and be confined to the Min estate for 3 months." As the Crown Prince and Pei Shu reveled in their triumph, Min Zishan suddenly raised his head, his gaze piercing toward me in the carriage. "Stop!" The national master abruptly halted the guards bearing the punishment staff. "What lowly person dares to come to my prince's residence? Young master, do you look down upon me? Crown Prince, I advise you to choose your words with care. Such talk of lowly persons should be avoided. I am the Crown Prince. I shall say what I wish. Your side consort hails from the countryside and is indeed a lowly person. Your Highness, what? Do you wish to strike me? Your Highness, I remind you once more to tread carefully in your words and actions. Since the young master chooses to associate with lowly individuals, then in my eyes, he too is of the same ilk. Am I not allowed to strike a lowly person as a Crown Prince?" The crowd stood in stunned silence, and the emperor turned to the national master. "National master, what is this?" "I possess a rudimentary understanding of ventriloquism." These were the exact words exchanged between the Crown Prince and the young master. Without alteration, the national master stated, flawlessly mimicking their voices, convincing the emperor wholeheartedly. The emperor's face slowly transitioned from crimson to ashen, his hands trembling uncontrollably. Abruptly, he snatched the staff from the guards and struck the Crown Prince with force. "You ungrateful wretch!" He showed no regard for the Crown Prince's cries of pain, striking harder with each blow. "Have you read nothing? What do you mean by lowly person? I have always prided myself on loving my subjects as my children. If those from the countryside are deemed lowly, are you suggesting that I too am lowly?" Blood dripped from the Crown Prince, splattering upon the emperor's dragon robe, yet he showed no signs of relenting. The attendants had never witnessed the usually gentle emperor so enraged, each trembling in fear. Yet I understood all too well. The emperor's beloved was indeed a woman of humble origins, shunned by the empress for her lowly status and forbidden from entering the palace. Even while pregnant, she was relegated to a humble dwelling in the outskirts of the capital. Due to the dire conditions, she perished after giving birth to Min Zishan. The emperor, devastated, had resolved to reform the state after ascending the throne, determined to alleviate the severe class divisions in the kingdom. Little did he know that the future heir would utter such words, completely undermining his lifelong governance philosophy. Igniting the emperor's wrath. Breathless, he pushed away the attendants attempting to mediate and pointed at the crown prince, who lay wailing on the ground, declaring, "The crown prince's conduct is unbecoming, foolish, and reckless. He shall receive 80 strokes and be confined to the crown prince's residence for 3 months." Turning to Min Zishan, the emperor's gaze was complex. "Your royal sister has trained you well." As the farce concluded, Min Zishan climbed into the carriage, casting a glance at me as I gently tended to his wounds. "This spectacle today was not merely to vent your frustrations on the crown prince, was it?" "Of course not," I replied with a smile, pressing my lips together. What else could foster the emperor's disappointment in the crown prince's governance abilities? I extended 2 fingers. Once this matter came to light, not only would the emperor be disillusioned with the crown prince, but also the court officials and the common folk would turn their disappointment towards him and gravitate towards you, the esteemed heir of the Min family. With the crown prince under house arrest, the significant task of diplomatic mission to the state of Chu would inevitably fall upon your shoulders. The eyes of Min Zishan sparkled with intensity as he suddenly extended his hand and tapped my nose. "The divine martial army. Is this indeed the scheme you have concocted?" I nodded in affirmation. "The conflict between the state of Yu and the state of Chu is on the brink of eruption. The ministers in court are embroiled in fervent debates over the matters of war and peace. This diplomatic mission to Chu is to negotiate this very issue. If you can grasp the emperor's sentiments on the matter, the divine martial army shall undoubtedly be yours to command. Thus, both civil and military officials, as well as the soldiers and the populace, will all rally behind you. The third prince will surely achieve great things." Min Zishan's face was alight with excitement as he grasped my hand tightly. "Hua, what do you perceive the emperor's stance towards Chu to be?" I reciprocated his grip, feeling the cold, clammy sweat of our palms. "The emperor is compassionate and cannot bear to see the people suffer amidst the ravages of war. He is resolutely in favor of peace." Min Zishan's expression gradually darkened. "Hua, but I am unwilling to advocate for peace." He raised his gaze, his eyes burning with fervor as they locked onto mine. "The emperor has favored peace for over a decade, although each negotiation has yielded favorable results. War has yet to befall us.
But times have changed."
He slammed his fist against the carriage window. "In the past, the state of Chu was weak and did not wish for peace out of desire, but rather out of fear of battle. Now, however, they have sharpened their weapons and their national strength is burgeoning, undoubtedly casting covetous eyes upon the splendid lands of our Yu. If we continue to seek peace at this moment, it will not only be futile, but will also invite further disdain from Chu, breeding a greater greed within their hearts." Watching his clenched fists, a sudden wave of fear surged within me. I instinctively embraced him, my body trembling slightly. He gently patted my shoulder and spoke softly. "Do not worry, before I depart, I will have a serious discussion with the emperor. I will not act impulsively." After bidding him farewell, I remained at home, consumed by worry and unease. Initially, I received letters from him daily, assuring me of his safety. Yet as days turned into 5, then 10, then 20, an entire month passed without a single word from him. My heart was in turmoil, and even my most skilled craft of embroidery faltered. A beautiful piece depicting orchids under the moonlight was marred by bloodstains from my fingertips, transformed into a scene of red plums in the snow. On the 30th day, I finally received news of him. At that moment, I, along with the members of the Min family, found ourselves bound and imprisoned at the execution grounds. Before us stood the crown prince and Pei Shu, clutching an imperial edict, their faces adorned with cold smirks. The traitor Min Zishan defied the emperor's command, unlawfully mobilizing the divine martial army to launch an attack on the state of Chu, only to return in disgrace. The emperor is furious and has decreed the execution of all members of the Min family. Pei Shu sauntered up to me, looking down from her elevated position.
"Hua,
How does it feel? You cannot escape my grasp. Tell me, where is Min Zishan?" The crown prince let out a hearty laugh. He has taken a troop deep into the deserts of Chu, vanishing without a trace. He is likely dead in the wilderness by now. Pei Shu leaned against the crown prince, giggling maliciously. Perhaps I shall instruct the executioners to act swiftly, and you might yet catch up with him at the bridge of helplessness. Amidst their raucous laughter, the incense burned down to its end, and the midday sun bore down upon me. I gazed at the azure sky and managed a bitter smile. Hua, in this lifetime, you have once again met with defeat. At noon, blood splattered across the execution grounds, and dozens of severed heads rolled upon the ground, eyes wide open in death. Hua, I have come too late. When Min Zishan stood before me, his face smeared with blood, trembling with exhaustion, I was amidst the decapitated heads of the Chu soldiers. He glanced at me and suddenly pointed to another particularly fierce-looking head, laughing. Look, this is the commander of the Chu army. I pursued him for 3 days and nights before claiming his head. As I surveyed the carnage of blood and dismembered limbs, I found myself inexplicably laughing through my tears. Later, Min Zishan recounted that upon reaching the border, he had initially intended to engage in insincere negotiations with Chu. However, that very night, a drunken Chu general had invaded a border village, disrespecting a maiden from you. The girl's parents, enraged, along with the villagers, had beaten the Chu general to death. This act incited the wrath of the Chu army's commander, who, disregarding Min Zishan's counsel, recklessly retaliated, slaughtering the entire village before returning to Chu in triumph. Min Zishan wrapped his arms around me, saying, Hua, you cannot imagine what the village has become. It is drenched in blood, littered with dismembered bodies, and filled with the hateful gazes of the people. His eyes were filled with sorrow. They harbor hatred not only for the Chu army, but also for me, for the divine martial army, and for the emperor, those who were supposed to protect them. In that moment, I finally understood my own heart. I yearned for battle. 5 days later, Min Zishan, accompanied by a contingent of loyal divine martial soldiers, set out in pursuit of the Chu army's commander. After fierce combat, they ultimately secured a resounding victory, slaying the commander. This triumph brought immense joy to the emperor, who bestowed upon Min Zishan the command token of the divine martial army, further increasing his trust in him. In the subsequent years, although the crown prince and Pei Shu continued to create turmoil through my foresight and Min Zishan's growing reputation, we navigated through the perils unscathed. On the very day my first son was born, the crown prince could bear it no longer and, rallying his maternal family's influence,
audacieusement staged à coup.
On that day, flames engulfed the streets, and the cries of soldiers echoed in my ears. Seizing the chaos, Pei Shu slipped into my chamber, frantically slaughtering my close handmaidens before wickedly thrusting her dagger towards me and my child. At the critical moment, Min Zishan returned, driving his sword through Pei Shu. He embraced me and our child, tears streaming down his face. Hua, do not fear, I have returned. From this day forth, you need not be afraid. We stand at the pinnacle together, and no one can harm us again. The crown prince was slain by the divine martial army during the insurrection, and the emperor, overwhelmed with grief, fell unconscious. In his final moments, he publicly revealed Min Zishan's true identity to the ministers and named him the new emperor. I assisted Min Zishan, gaining renown, and the emperor decreed my elevation to empress. Min Zishan glanced at my expression. Hua, what troubles you? What has brought you unhappiness? I buried my face against his chest. Min Zishan, I am no longer your lucky star. After giving birth, I discovered that the fragmented memories in my mind had vanished without a trace. Min Zishan tightened his embrace, his arms suddenly stiffening. After a long pause, his voice resonated above me. Hua, you will always be my lucky star. I looked up to find his dark eyes filled with an unfathomable depth, concealing thoughts I could not comprehend. After Min Zishan ascended to the throne, he became engrossed in the demands of governance, and it had been quite some time since he visited my palace. I paid it no mind, spending my days entertaining myself with the child, often declining visits from the national advisor. One day, as the spring breeze wafted gently, it stirred memories of the day I first met Min Zishan. Just as I was smilingly reminiscing about the past, Min Zishan entered, carrying a jug of wine. Empress, he said, removing his dragon robe and donning his old attire, appearing once more as the charming heir of the Min family. He gathered me into his arms and waved for the wet nurse to take the child away.
Today,
I have a bit of leisure. Let's indulge in some wine together. Your Majesty seems to be in good spirits today. I shall gladly accompany you. He poured himself a cup, then filled another, and offered it to me. The wine was exquisite, clear, and fragrant. I tilted my head back and drank it all in one go. Perhaps it had been too long since I had tasted wine. After just one cup, I felt a slight dizziness. Empress, Empress, I heard Min Zishan's voice calling me. Not receiving a response from me, he suddenly collapsed to the ground, covering his face as he wept. Hua, I am so sorry. I did not intend to harm you. It is just that you are too formidable. The National Advisor has always been your ally. Over the years, you have devised countless schemes for my sake. The courtiers and the divine martial army. Countless civil and military officials have sung your praises. Even my father, in his final moments, extolled your virtues and resolutely appointed you as his successor. You instill within me a profound sense of dread. Thus, Your Majesty, you have long harbored intentions to eliminate me. Yet, fearing my prescient abilities, you have hesitated to act. After I revealed to you that my powers had waned post-childbirth, you could no longer contain your eagerness to strike. Min Zishan gazed at me. Astonishment etched upon his features as I rose slowly. How can you? I smiled faintly. Is it not curious that even the poison of the Qianji could not bring about my demise? Your Majesty, do not forget, during our first encounter, the Qianji failed to take my life. Min Zishan gradually sank back into his chair, blood flowing from his mouth and nose, his body convulsing. I picked up the wine jug from the table, dismantling its concealed mechanism under his bewildered gaze. Your Majesty, on the day you gifted me this wine jug, I altered its mechanism. Henceforth, should you harbor no ill will toward me, this jug shall prove utterly useless. However, should you entertain murderous thoughts, it shall turn upon you as a venomous weapon. I approached Min Zishan, whose breath was becoming increasingly shallow, tenderly wiping the blood from his face and brushing my hand over his unclosing eyes. Min Zishan, your strength is formidable, so much so that it instills fear within me. Therefore, your death grants me solace. The night breeze was cool as I surveyed the desolate palace chambers. This was the pinnacle of the imperial city, where the chill of altitude was palpable. I had traversed the high walls of the Pei residence, the Min residence, and the very walls of the imperial city. Finally arriving here, no longer would anyone loom above me, instilling anxiety and fear. In the night breeze, I reclined upon the ground, whispering to myself, Lotus, from this moment forth, you shall enjoy peaceful slumbers. The end of the tale. Thank you for listening. We shall meet again in the next story.